Hey everyone. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go over 10 ways to identify if the person that you're dealing with is actually a covert narcissist. So looking at someone and trying to figure out if they're a covert narcissist means that you actually need to look beyond their outer appearance, beyond their outer behaviors. Covert means hidden. So they're trying to hide this from people. Even though deep down, this is actually who they are. These people tend to hide their narcissistic mannerisms, and they're usually a little more passive-aggressive in their ways of controlling other people. Because of this, knowing that someone is a covert narcissist or realizing it might take quite a while. Might take a little more interaction between you and this person to try to figure it out. Because it isn't necessarily outwardly shown to you. They don't want it to be shown to you. They're hiding it. That is, unless you know what to look for. And that's why I'm here. So I'm going to actually put a complete list, or an actual checklist, if you will, to see if the person that you're dealing with is a covert narcissist. This checklist comes from a website called Psychology Today. They have a lot of great information. So please visit psychologytoday.com if you would like more information. And I do give credit to that website. I get a lot of information from them. And also because I did not create this checklist on my own, but it is very helpful to have. So I'm going to put it in the description box below this video here. Okay, so before we get into, a few of those things on the checklist, there's like 50 something things on this actual checklist. So I tried to combine some of them, but I came up with 10. Before we get into that, there's one thing that you should know, that a covert narcissist usually does not develop a stable sense of identity, self-awareness, or usually empathy for others. You might see it a little bit here and there, but generally they don't have much empathy for other people or things. And the tactics that this type of person might use might include avoiding responsibility, or basically, not taking accountability for their actions. They might belittle others, and a lot of times they might use triangulation. I know it's a big word, but that is basically putting others in a third-party situation. Or having, two people compete in one way or another. It could be a romantic situation. It could be family. It could be all sorts of things, work relationships. But it basically, if they get these two people to compete, somehow it gives them this feeling of attention and allowing them to feel superior by having these two people compete for this person or for whatever it is that they're triangulating here. Okay, so those are just a few things to throw out there. All right, so here are the 10 behaviors or patterns that a covert narcissist might have. All right, so number 1, they are usually, like I said, passive-aggressive in their interactions with others. They might not, come up and actually say something to someone's face. It's almost like they're too scared to do that, so everything is passive-aggressive. Number 2, they usually criticize and judge others, but they do it from the sidelines. Like I said, they don't directly confront people. So I'm thinking that they're not very confrontational with people. So they do it passively aggressively. They don't ever usually do things directly to a person's face. Number 3, they tend to feel superior to others, like other narcissists, and it's deep down inside. But they're also condescending, especially when talking about other people. So if you're talking with this person and they're talking about other people because they do like to gossip, I think that's another thing on my list here, you might notice that they are kind of condescending when they do that toward this other person. Number 4, they're threatened when they're spoken to in a direct manner, as well as with honesty, or being confronted with honesty. They're also a lot of times reactive and become angry when they're questioned or criticized. Number 5, they will usually go back and forth between, devaluing themselves and others and then idealizing themselves and others. They'll just go back and forth. And they also tend to attack the vulnerability of others. So they look for where somebody's vulnerability is, their weaknesses, and they will attack that, either with words or actions. Passively, aggressively, most likely. And number 6, they generally dismiss and deny others' feelings, which is basically gaslighting. Number 7, they try to portray themselves with this certain public image that is vastly different from who they actually are behind closed doors. So, especially if you know this person, in a more intimate setting, then you will definitely be able to see this contrast here. Number 8, they constantly make themselves out to be the victim. And they do this with dramatic stories or problems, things like that, to have other people feel sorry for them, because they also play on the sympathies of others. Kind of makes them feel good. It, makes them feel valued for whatever reason. Number 9, they are cynical, they're sarcastic, they're envious, and vengeful. But they also deny their own anger. They may, like I said earlier, gossip, hold grudges, and seek validation from others. And then they also use that triangulation or the third party thing as a means of control. So it's for control, it's to make themselves feel good, the validation, all of that. And then number 10, they generally focus on superficial things over over actual depth and substance. They're impressed by the appearance of confidence in others. They have an exaggerated sense of entitlement. They hate to lose and avoid taking responsibility or accountability for any of their actions. So, although a covert narcissist may be more difficult to spot versus other types of narcissists, it is important that you use this list, read it over, use this list, maybe print it out or save it on your phone. And once, you interact with this person, see how many things that, might be applicable, might apply to this person, and see if they display any of these, characteristics. Because if this is the case, it is the first step in overcoming any type of cycle that you might be in, or might be, stuck in for some reason, where you feel or have felt confused, guilty, angry, while blaming yourself, and maybe undergoing any kind of emotional or physical trauma in the process. Like I said, covert narcissists, they want to hide this from people. So they don't want to be found out. But if you know what to look for, you'll know how to spot this type of person. And you'll know, to either stay away from them or not feed into their narcissistic ways. And, the best possible thing is to either separate yourself from this person and ultimately for this person to try to get some help psychologically so that maybe they can overcome this. So I hope this helped, and I hope you all are well. Until next time, take care.